Hi, everyone. I am Lalani. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Annex Cloud. Very excited to present to you today. Hopefully my slides will come up any second now, but the topic I'm excited to speak with you today is very near and dear to my heart because we've been working on this for the last decade, and it's on the topic of loyalty and retention and how it can be your secret weapon, especially now, especially for what we've gone through in the last few years and how we can use it to deliver individualized experiences to your customers. A little bit of a background for me. We co-founded Annex Cloud, or I co-founded Annex Cloud about a decade ago. We're now several hundred people across the globe. And my background before that was on the other side of the table. I ran e-commerce for Teleflora Flowers, both on the B2B and B2C side. So I've got sort of an experience on both sides of the table, so to speak. Before I dive in, I just want to start off with an exciting announcement of our strategic partnership for Annex Cloud with Bazaarvoice, where we are launching Bazaarvoice Loyalty, or Loyalty by Bazaarvoice, which is powered by Annex Cloud, which now allows a loyalty management solution to be available to all Bazaarvoice clients in the enterprise and mid-market, as well as SMB globally. And what this allows Bazaarvoice clients to do is create an integrated solution with consumer content powered by Bazaarvoice and loyalty powered by Annex Cloud in a cohesive, integrated way, supported by loyalty specialists from Annex Cloud. And this is available for all kinds of companies, from B2C to B2B to D2C to B2B2C to everything else you can imagine there. So very excited to kick this off with that strategic partnership announcement. But with that said, sort of let's jump in and talk a bit about sort of why loyalty is so important in this day and age. Now, being a marketer for a very long time, it's very easy for us to just focus on acquiring new customers. And that's really the exciting thing to do. We all have our P&L, we have our budgets. We want to focus on the latest and greatest in customer acquisition, different tactics, optimization for paid and other, media, if you will, to drive new customers to our site. But what we've seen in the pandemic most recently is a re-emerging focus on loyalty and retention, initially driven by supply chain management issues, then driven by the ability for consumers to move towards digital and now have choices they didn't have before, essentially making us as marketers wanting to focus on retaining those customers we had and essentially re-earning their trust, so to speak, if you will. So an extremely sort of big focus we've seen over the last few years in terms of retaining your customers. Now, just a quick synopsis of what I'm going to talk about in the next few slides here. There is an immense pressure today on brands to deliver value in a very different way. As we all got significantly more digital over the last few years, the way we deliver value and communicate that value is very different. And one of the things that you'll see in some of the next few slides is, we've seen some research that there's still a big gap between what the consumers expect, especially now with this changing environment, and the execution on the marketer side. And driving that execution requires capturing a lot of customer data to be able to deliver those personalized experiences. And many industries have been truly disrupted over the last few years. So let's talk a little bit about how loyalty and retention technology can probably help you gain the advantage and get back in touch with your consumers and deliver on the expectations that they have from you. I want to start with a little bit of a story of James and Joshi. Now, James, was vacationing at the Ritz-Carlton in Florida with his young family, his wife and his young son. And they had an amazing vacation. They after vacation, got back home, and unfortunately, the young son realized that he had left Joshi back in Florida. Now, Joshi is his stuffed giraffe. Okay, so the young son was really attached to Joshi. And so, to pacify the son, James had to tell his son that Joshi was just doing an extended vacation back at the Ritz-Carlton, that he wanted to stay a few more days. And then behind went back and contacted the Ritz-Carlton, to send Joshi back. Now, here's the experience from Ritz-Carlton. Ritz-Carlton sent back a package a few days later. Obviously, Joshi was in that package, along with some great goodies from Ritz-Carlton to go with that. But at the same time, sent along some amazing pictures of Joshi vacationing at the Ritz-Carlton, Florida, where he was, laying by the pool and relaxing, at the spa and at the golf course and so on and so forth, just to supplement, the part that the father had to say to the son to pacify. And so just shows you sort of just a really individualized experience that Ritz-Carlton was able to provide James and his family in this case. As marketers, we look at these stories and we start thinking about how we're going to sort of adapt technology to deliver some of these things at scale, because consumers now, they're not just, looking for sort of the normal, they're looking for a truly individualized experience. And it's almost expected for technology to deliver that to me at this point. And these individualized experiences need to be very relevant and they need to be very timely. Now, this is a story prior to the pandemic. Kleenex obviously became our new friend during the pandemic. And prior to the pandemic, Kleenex ran this campaign where they saw on Facebook who was, people that were sort of, sharing that they were sick or under the weather a bit. And what they did was they sort of contacted friends of those people and were able to send care packages with Kleenex and other goodies and other things to make people feel better while they were sick. And what resulted in that was an amazing campaign where people shared about their experiences of this personalization, where Kleenex went above and beyond to share that. And the reason that and by the way, 100% of people that were sent these care packages shared about it. And the reason they did, because this thing that Kleenex did was relevant. It was very timely. It was recognized. It was exclusive, and it provided great value to those consumers. And so that's what consumers want to feel in their individualization of those experiences, so to speak. And they want to see this across the board in an omni-channel way. Now, just another example to share with you, this time around Nordstrom, of a story where Nordstrom delivered an order that was created online, on their site. Unfortunately, the shoes that were delivered to this person were kept out of the house, and during the rain got spoiled a bit. And so when this person then tweeted about their experience, unfortunately not getting the right thing, and also emailed customer service about it, Nordstrom, social team was able to sort of capture that information from social, connect with their customer service, get in touch with the nearest store. The store, associate was able to contact this person and be able to deliver a new pair of shoes to this person, which resulted in, again, this person sharing their positive experience out. But truly another example this time around, truly omni-channel, which started online, ended on social, with an in-store delivery coming in place and solving this customer's problems. So all these stories really show how a kind of experience can be delivered truly to excite customers and make them feel special. And some of these solutions, and in this Nordstrom's case, this customer was a high-value customer belonging to their loyalty program. And, just as a background, like I released, loyalty programs, and we've done, tons of loyalty program launches over the last decade. But my first experience that created, that resulted in me starting Annex Cloud and focusing on this loyalty management and retention piece was when we launched our loyalty program at Teleflora. This is back in 2008, so to speak. And at that time, these experiences or the loyalty programs focused a lot on cashback and discounts and things like that, which, was good at the time. But again, retaining your customers is not just about discounting. In fact, discounting is what you want to get away from when you want to create retention and loyalty. It's one of the reasons you want to have a loyal customer, because you want to take away people from that discounting strategy. And then over time, this evolved into kind of potentially providing gifts with purchases or better services and support and so on and so forth. But today, the loyalty and retention methodology is great in creating an emotional tie-in and a connection with that end customer. And these experiences I talked about that potentially can be created at scale for your most loyal customers drive emotional connections, drive the next age of loyalty, so to speak, with those customers. And that's where we're going. And so people care about those experiences. People care about potentially a status that they get, and maybe a little bit less about discounts, so to speak. And it's a great way to get away from that discounting strategy. Now let's talk a little bit about sort of the challenges brands have today, if you will, or over the last few years, and how that's sort of amalgamated. And then we'll just go into how retention and loyalty can help you solve some of those challenges, if you will, as well. So, one of the big sort of pieces that we're seeing is the new age consumers are now getting very specific about the brands they want to buy from. And they may have causes and reasons to buy from those brands. So it's no longer just potentially a price purchase. And especially it may be in some cases for commodities, but then also there's a reason to create a way such that consumers have a better tie-in to your brand than just sort of getting the product and choosing the best price. And some of those reasons we've seen now are deal with sustainability, or communicating that maybe you're sustainable, or you provide a healthy alternative, or your humane and ability, your approach towards creating your products, and so on and so forth. So that's a big perspective that brands now have to communicate from a cause perspective to make sure brands are connecting with their customers. Most recently, we also have a very, very high inflationary pressure, and consumers are now getting very, very price sensitive in certain scenarios when there isn't a connection established with that customer to make them loyal with you. Now, maybe this picture was a little old because I don't think there is $3.82 of gas available anywhere here anymore. But with that said, just the ability for us to combat that inflation pressure is very important. And there's an article that was shared by Mary Pilecki from Forrester about how loyalty and retention programs are a hedge against inflation, where consumers, if they're loyal to you, and maybe they're part of a program potentially, may not always consider price as an alternative. As a simple ask, I can ask you, if you open up your Amazon app and you're trying to order, how many times did you price shop from there, right? That's just a great example of being able to combat inflation and price pressure, potentially using loyalty and retention. Back in the day at Teleflora, one of the things I realized was, we were an extremely seasonal business. People buy flowers, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, during the holidays, Christmas, so on and so forth. And what would happen is we would essentially always have pressure to drive orders. And that pressure released always prompted us to discount even further, because we knew we would send an email with a slightly higher discount, and that would cause consumers to potentially come in and order a bit better. But what we didn't realize was we were training our customers incorrectly, because they were waiting for that discount to come in before they could order. We were driving down our margins. We weren't training them to really associate with our brand differently. And what we realized was, again, we all know as marketers, discounting is essentially a way to the bottom. And so that loyalty program, what we released, was essentially a way to untrain our customers from discounting, to create an emotional connection with those customers, and over time, sort of build that trust with them, if you will. So getting away from this discounts, is a key initiative for loyalty programs. Now, another sort of initiative, or another thing that's challenging, in the most recent years, is this great adaptation of privacy laws and regulations around the globe, starting with GDPR in Europe a few years ago, with recently CCPA and CPRA in California. Brands have a tremendous amount of pressure to ensure that we use data the right way. Now, Annex Cloud works with a lot of businesses across the globe. So whether it's Brazil, which has LGBT, Australia, and New Zealand, which have their own set of laws, several things around the globe, and pretty much, it's very, very possible that in the next 2 to 5 years, these stricter privacy laws will be adopted across the globe in some form or fashion similar to each other that will allow us and make sure that we want to have consented data from those customers and we keep that data safe. And these loyalty programs, and we'll talk about that, is a way to collect amazing amount of data for your customers without sort of, having to depend on the crumbling cookie, so to speak. Now let's sort of deviate slightly in terms of understanding, what we're seeing in the marketplace from a digital experience perspective. And this is, sort of a slide that was shared by Brendan Witcher, who's a principal analyst at Forrester, where they did a study. And even in today's day and age, and we've been talking about personalizing customer experiences for a very long time, back from my days at Teleflora in 2005 to 2010 to even now. But this was a recent study where they spoke with brands, and 89% of marketers felt that they were investing and doing a decent job in personalizing the customer experience. But when they did the same study with consumers for those brands, they realized that only 40% of consumers felt that brands were delivering to their tastes and interests. Now that's extremely astonishing. Now remember, these things fluctuate. Consumers' expectations are rising. So what was okay maybe 5 years ago may not be okay now. And so they're asking for another level of personalization, in terms of understanding them. So there's a big gap very clearly between execution and expectation, so to speak. This again was a study done by Gartner, where they essentially said and found that, according to them, less than 10% of companies truly have a 360 view of their customers. Now, we talk about this customer 360 and the view of your customer data across all different channels. And as marketers, we've been talking about this for a few years now. But in reality, Gartner found that there's still an immense gap in being able to collect that true 360 data in reality by companies, and only 10% of companies truly have achieved that. And only 5% of them are able to use that to systematically grow their business. And so these challenges, essentially, and the reason they're unable to do that is there are still functional silos in collecting that data. There are still certain technological challenges to be able to do that. There is not a customer centricity process and attitude that may be able to collect that information. So there's a few different challenges that still remain that don't allow us as marketers to be able to truly achieve that customer centricity that we've all been aiming to get to. And so, we want to be customer obsessed. We want to be customer centric, but it has to be data led. It has to be allowing us to get the right data to be customer centric, to understand our customers and use that data to deliver on the right expectation. And so the questions that are being asked now is, are we data driven, or are we data led company, right? Are we just using data to drive decisions, or are we leading using data to make our companies sort of deliver on the right customer experience that our customers want? There are some brands that we all know about are using data at a very different level to be able to deliver on those customer experiences, so to speak. And the fastest way to collect that permissioned data is by having a loyalty program. And that's why we're truly excited in this partnership with Bazaarvoice, because you now, with the cookie crumbling, and we've been talking about this for a while, with the cookie crumbling and us not being able to collect data, and the privacy laws that are coming about that we just talked about, we need to be able to collect data in a way that we can essentially deliver rich experiences for our customers. And these loyalty programs are a great way to collect that personalized data from those customers. And these, this includes zero-party data, this includes first-party data, zero-party data, because these consumers now are opting in to your program, potentially allowing you as a marketer to be able to ask them the right questions to deliver the right experiences. So if you're a beauty company and you want to ask them about their skin complexion or the type of products they like, or what they use and how often they use from that perspective, you can ask for that type of first party data from your customers, so to speak, or zero party data from your customers, and be able to ask them to give you that data as being part of the loyalty program, to be able to deliver rich experiences and benefits to those customers for sharing their information with them. And they know they're sharing this to be able to get a benefit within the program in some capacity, and they're not sharing it because then they can be used or potentially, in some consumers' mind, exploited by the brands, so to speak. Because consumers now are becoming very, very, wary of being able to share their personal information with these new privacy laws that are coming about. So you need to give them a methodology or a program for them to opt in and be able to do this in a cohesive way where they can see the benefits from it, if you will. So these loyalty programs are a great way to collect rich member data profiles, and then also actionable data, first party data that you can collect for them as a benefit. Their browsing experiences, their site experiences, their product experiences, their order experiences, and then certain custom attributes, as we talked about, their lifestyle preferences and so on and so forth, that then can be combined and segmented to provide rich data experiences to your customers in a truly permissioned way that sort of abides by all the privacy laws, and the consumers are happy to provide that information as a result. And so that's just a really important way, if you will. And as you look at the customer journey from awareness to considering your product, to purchasing, to becoming a loyal customer, to becoming an advocate of your brand, there are several touch points that they might be doing across multiple channels within their customer experience. And along the way, sharing, progressive profile data, depending on what it is. So while during awareness, they may be sharing certain product preferences, or during consideration, they may be sharing their favorite products. When they are a loyal customer, they might be extremely willing to share personalized information about their tastes, their wants, what keeps them excited, what makes them want to come back and buy again from you as a brand. And then also be able to share with you what would make them become an advocate for you, refer their friends, tell other people about their experiences, write reviews, share content, take pictures, share on social media, and have an amazing, sort of connection with that brand. We talked about this emotional touch and emotional loyalty, so to speak. That's a core part of creating these new age programs that we talk about now. And that's the foundation of a value exchange between the consumer and the brand in a way that they feel comfortable sharing their information with you, so to speak. And at the end of the day, from your perspective, right, from a brand perspective, this delivers results. We've seen, and I talked about this before, right? I was as guilty as when I was a marketer back in the day of focusing on acquisition. And we've all seen as marketers over the last few years, as we've come out of the pandemic, there's a resurgence and renewed focus on retaining or re-earning the trust of your customers that you once had, to be able to bring them back and continue them from buying from you, whether those were challenges that were in the supply chain or still are in the supply chain, whether the availability of different types of products now, because consumers have gone digital and they have a lot more choices available. And so those things now are allowing us to focus on retention in a new way, build that emotional connection, and that's showing the results. The results, are tremendous in terms of, customer lifetime value being, up to 40% increase in lifetime value for those customers, because now they are retaining, you're essentially spending the effort and time to retain them to come to you. We all know the adage, right? It takes significantly less cost as a marketer to retain your customer than it does to acquire a new customer. Even, and especially now, sort of focusing on that retention and repeat purchases and allowing your repeat customers to spend more with you drives better conversion from your existing customers and essentially delivers great results. And so, essentially one of the sort of, this is again a follow-up from Forbes, which sort of, confirmed that loyalty programs now are proven to increase retention and lifetime value by 30% or more by increasing frequency of visits, increasing spend per visit, and then helping you win customers that are lost. And I will add one more thing, helping you win customers you never had, because these advocates now can drive new customers to your brand, so to speak. And so loyalty now is truly, in this current age, especially now, a secret weapon for marketers to be able to adopt, to be able to deliver great experiences to your customers. And this innovation can be adopted across multiple industries. It doesn't just have to be, in specific industries. Now, points, definitely points programs remain viable. We've all been part of airlines and hospitality programs where you can get miles or points, and then you can burn those miles to get certain benefits. But what's changed, as I've talked about, is those outcomes may not just be discounts. It is essentially emotional experiences. So instead of just giving me a coupon, how about giving me an experience I would normally not have, if you will, if I wasn't part of this program, so to speak. And now I'm building a much more emotional touch with those, with the brand. And these brands are now also focusing on, kind of the ability to get multiple brands together. So if you've got multiple brands, you can sort of share that data, be able to run multi-brand programs together. And that's a new innovation, allowing loyalty programs across brands, and not just across brands, but across, sort of having a consistent experience across multiple geos. As larger brands, you might have experiences in Japan and the US and LATAM and other places, and you can essentially create a cohesive program to get data and share data across programs. And then even more now, creating coalitions with potentially partners. An example of that is Ralph's and Shell, for example, right? If you shop at Ralph's, you can use your points at Shell, and if you shop at Shell, you can do that at Ralph's, and so on and so forth. And in this example, Nike and Dick's Sporting Goods sort of sharing some loyalty coalition with them as well. And then as making it as frictionless as possible for consumers to join a program. So for example, walking into a store, I don't need to carry my little swab that I need to be in my key chain, if you will, right? I can just swipe my credit card. My credit card is my new loyalty program, or my digital wallet, for example. If I use that as my new loyalty card, so to speak, I touch on my digital card, or I swipe my credit card, I walk out, I get my benefits automatically because now it's associated across the board. Same thing online. If I'm, buying even as a guest and I haven't identified myself, but I'm using a credit card that's linked to an account, so to speak, that I've used before, and it obviously permission used in a certain way, you can identify those customers and make it frictionless across the board. And then going from retail to CPG, CPG companies have a different challenge where you're not directly may not be directly selling to your customers, even though now in today's age, the last couple of years, there's a lot of movement for companies to sell direct to consumer, but you might still have a big portion of consumers that are buying through retail. And loyalty programs are a great way to collect that information. So, if you're doing sampling with Bazaarvoice and you're collecting that customer data, now you're able to use those consumers and opt them into loyalty programs, have them drive more people that can sample, have them also become part of your loyalty program, share their experiences, build your direct to consumer presence. So when you do ramp up your own e-commerce and so on and so forth, you have that. You can also have consumers share their receipts. So if your consumer buys from a retailer like a Walmart or a Target or any other one, if you will, they can take a picture of their receipt, and that receipt then can be processed and be able to send, to the brand, and you can now build that. And you can also use these loyalty programs to communicate your social responsibility, as I mentioned before, creating a better touch with those customers. And if you're in B2B, again, that's a much bigger challenge, so to speak, because you have multiple levels of your consumers buying. And so, they may not directly buy from you. They may be buying from a retailer who then buys from a wholesaler, and you might be wanting to create loyalty with the wholesaler or the retailer or the consumer. So there's multiple levels, but then creating these omni-channel programs can truly allow you to create retention and loyalty across all points off the supply chain as a B2B company as well. So now, you can essentially have a touch and a communication with all of those customers. And then, and if you talk about fashion, for example, as another industry example, going away from discounting, but creating truly exclusive experiences that consumers get recognition, early access, so on and so forth, and becoming as a part of your loyalty program gives them the ability to really create trust for your customers and essentially an emotional connection with your customers. And you can also use, new age rewards like potentially NFTs that were created specifically for your brand and make it more exciting for your customers to participate in your programs, so to speak. One of the brands I really like is Nick and Zoe, where they have a truly omni-channel program. And you can see it's a points program, so you're still staying normal to what loyalty programs might be, but it's not just earn points for buying. You get points for, sharing your information, for your birthday. You get points for sharing on social media, writing reviews. And this is where some of our integration with Bazaarvoice comes about, where we can share that data for people sharing that consumer content, reward them for it, so to speak. Not for positive experiences, but just in case, just for sharing those content pieces, and then be able to create a truly omni-channel program that delivers emotional rewards for those customers. And so just a great example to be in touch. So just as a recap for what we want to do in terms of delivering the true sort of omni-channel, best-in-class experiences, we've got tremendous pressure as brands to deliver value that's different, that's unique, that's now adaptable to the post-pandemic age that we're all going about. But there's still a big gap in expectations and execution. And our story here is to help you kind of minimize that gap by allowing you to create an experience through a loyalty program, collect immense amount of customer data to personalize those experiences across different industries as those industries change and adapt, as it gets more digital, as it gets more direct to consumer, so to speak, create those experiences through a loyalty management solution. And this loyalty by Bazaarvoice is available today. So we'd love to get in touch with you, and we'll hopefully this presentation gives you some ammunition and information that helps you make your decisions on how to create true loyalty and retention for your customers in this post-pandemic age. So thank you, and I appreciate the time, and let's take some questions. In the meantime, we've got a few minutes here. I think there's one question here that mentioned that loyalty is a great way to collect first-party data. How does that work exactly? So, when you create these loyalty programs and when a program is created, one of the things you will do is you'll create ways for consumers to potentially, opt in and provide, essentially opt into your program. And so when they opt into your program, you are now giving them reasons to participate with you. And if you communicate your value proposition really well, you can then ask them for certain information in return for better experiences, in return for better outcomes, so to speak. So in my previous example, I mentioned as a beauty brand, you can ask them for certain information about their likes and dislikes, about their skin complexion, about their, about their needs, so that you can deliver great value in return. And in return for that, you can give them some points, as you saw in the Nick and Zoe example, for collecting that information. But now you can collect both zero-party and first-party data that can be very, very useful for providing better experiences. And you're doing this in a context of truly not just collecting data and making consumers feel like their privacy may be violated, but doing so in a way that they know they're going to get something for it. They know they're going to get rich experiences. They know they're going to get rewards. They know they're going to get invites to potentially a exclusive, operation, and essentially, help you as a brand to create an emotional connection with the customer. So that's sort of one of the reasons to do that. One of the other questions was related to moving away from discounts, and can we do a loyalty program without discounts? And the answer is absolutely yes. In fact, so much so, I mentioned the story of us training back in my Teleflora days, training people to be expecting a discount and sort of driving to the bottom with those discounts ever increasing. And loyalty programs are a great hedge against discounting, and in sort of retraining your customers not to wait for a discount by creating emotional experiences, by creating a reason for them to come to you directly, if you will. Airlines have done an amazing job at that, especially for providing statuses. And through the pandemic, what they did was they extended your status, so to speak. Most of us were retained, and our statuses were extended because they wanted to sort of give you a great experience and sort of do so in a way that they retain your status, so that when you start flying again, you are able to get the same experience you were prior to the pandemic. So definitely a way to get away from discounts, definitely a way to get away from price pressure and price comparison as well, in addition to discounts, from a loyalty perspective, creating emotional connections with your customers. So with that said, I think that's all we may have for today. Thank you so much, everyone, and wish you the very best, and hope you have a great day with the rest of the sessions here at the Bazaarvoice Summit. Thank you again.